Chapter 2, The Girl Who Asked Questions. At school, I found math quite interesting, but what I truly loved was Chinese literature, especially the classical works and poetry. The language was so beautiful, so rich. I could lose myself in it. But during those years, each term we were only allowed to read one piece of classical writing. The rest were political articles. Everything had to follow the correct revolutionary message. Still, that one classical piece each term stayed with me. I memorized them all. One of them was Mulan Si, the poem about Hua Mulan, the same one Disney later turned into a film. I still remember every line, from beginning to end. I once recited it to my daughter, and she was shocked. I think in that moment, she realized how deep my roots in learning really go. When I was about 15, our political teacher, Miss Kwan Furong, gave a lecture on truth. She wasn't the kind of teacher students feared. She was the one we admired. Elegant, slim, and strikingly beautiful, with a smile as graceful as her singing voice. In her university days, she had been the lead singer in the student choir, and her husband, who was a year above her, was the conductor. We used to joke, of course she married him. Every lead singer must follow the conductor's lead. That day, standing at the front of the classroom, she declared solemnly, "Truth is the real logic of the world." Then she added, "The proletariat has the truth of the proletariat. The bourgeoisie has the truth of the bourgeoisie." I furrowed my brow. Wait, two truths? I raised my hand. If the proletariat has its truth and the bourgeoisie has its truth, I asked, then which one is the truth? Silence. The whole room froze. You could hear a pencil drop and then hold its breath. Miss Kwan smiled, paused, and then gently said, "Let's open this up for discussion." But I knew. She didn't answer. Not because she couldn't, but because she dared not. Maybe that was her quiet way of encouraging us to think, without crossing any dangerous lines. At that time, truth was optional, but silence was compulsory. But I wasn't trying to be rebellious. I just wanted to understand. To me, it was a puzzle, a curious thought. When I went home and told my parents, my father said nothing. My mother turned pale, grabbed my arm, and whispered, "From now on, don't ask any questions in political class. Ever. You could get us all in trouble." That day, I learned two things. 1, truth can be dangerous. And 2, asking the right question is sometimes more powerful than giving the right answer. After I graduated from high school in Beijing during the Cultural Revolution in 1974, the path ahead was not mine to choose. At that time, university entrance exams had been abolished. Academic excellence meant nothing if your political background wasn't considered correct. I had achieved top scores in every subject, what we'd now call 6 A's, and was the best student in my graduating class. But that wasn't enough. There was no exam to sit, no university to apply to, only waiting. Back then, graduates were sent, often without consultation, to the countryside, factories, or the army to receive re-education from workers, peasants, and soldiers. This was a national policy meant to instill revolutionary values and humility. University places were scarce, and those who were selected as future doctors were chosen not for their knowledge, but for their loyalty. Medical programs were reduced to just 3 years, about 60% of the standard training time. It wasn't about teaching medicine, it was about building ideological purity. While I was waiting for my job assignment after graduation, I suddenly had 2 free months on my hands. One day, a neighbor, a young woman working as a barefoot doctor in a local factory, told me about a 1-month training course for barefoot doctors. I was instantly intrigued. Although I wasn't officially enrolled, I couldn't stay away. I quietly slipped into the back of the room, sat through the lectures, and soaked it all in like a sponge. I wasn't there for credit or recognition. I was there because I was genuinely fascinated. For readers unfamiliar with the term, barefoot doctors were a unique feature of China's rural healthcare system between the 1960s and 1980s. These were part-time health workers, often farmers, trained in basic medicine, acupuncture, hygiene, and anatomy. The term barefoot came from the image of peasant doctors working in rice paddies without shoes, then returning to their villages to provide care. It symbolized humility, grassroots service, and a practical, no-frills approach to public health during a time of national scarcity. The training was held in a hospital classroom, about an hour from my home. Until then, my understanding of medicine came from acupuncture. I had taught myself to use needles since I was 11 years old and often treated neighbors. But modern medicine was a mystery to me. I didn't know what adaptive physiology meant or that pharmacology even existed. I thought being a doctor meant you just saw patients. I didn't realize there were layers of knowledge behind it all: how the body works, how drugs interact, how systems respond. For me, this was not just new, it was thrilling. At the end of the course, students were assigned to clinical training in local clinics. But to participate, one needed an official certificate from a work unit. I had none. I returned to my high school for help and turned to our political teacher, Miss Kwan Farong. When I told her about the training, she listened quietly, then broke into a warm smile. She was genuinely happy for me. "Let me try," she said softly. No promises, no big speeches, just quiet sincerity. And somehow, she did it. I still don't know how she did it, but within a few days, she handed me a simple certificate stating that our school approved my training. That little piece of paper changed everything. I was placed in a small company clinic along with another teenage boy. Neither of us had real clinical experience. When it came time to practice intramuscular injections, the instructor asked, "Have you done this before?" My friend answered, "Only on a turnip." I nodded. That was true for both of us. The teacher chuckled and handed us cotton balls. "Start here." That 1 month of study and hands-on practice didn't just deepen my knowledge, it confirmed something I already felt in my bones. I was meant to heal. I wasn't an official student. I had no title, no place on a list. But I showed up. I listened. I learned. And with the quiet support of a beautiful teacher, a turnip, and a cotton ball, I began the journey of a lifetime. End of chapter 2.